Hi everybody, welcome to today's session, and I hope you're having a great time at reInvent 2024. My name is Nathan O'Neill. I'm Director of Technology with the Just Walk Out technology team, part of AWS Solutions. Today, I'm going to be talking about autonomous retail and how we've been able to enable success with our partner, UC San Diego, and we'll be bringing up on stage in a bit our trusted partners, Heather Vinograd and Jeff Palmer, and they'll be doing a deep dive into how they've been able to implement Just Walk Out technology as well as other aspects of AWS at their campus. We'll be covering some of the rationale into why Just Walk Out and other autonomous retail should be used. We'll be looking at some retail trends. I'll be giving an introduction to the basics of the technology, and then we'll be moving into applying it at UCSD. I'm really excited today. It's going to be a great deep dive into the value propositions that UCSD has been able to achieve, and then we'll be looking at the future state of their business as well as Just Walk Out outside of education. So first up, some of what we're seeing in the retail industry in general is moving definitely towards using technology for convenience, for increasing top-line revenue, and for increasing bottom-line performance in stores. So in terms of convenience, starting with a shopper, a lot of shoppers are telling us in surveys that they do value convenience, they would pay more for a convenient solution, autonomous retail, checking out faster, finding things faster, getting in and out of stores faster, being able to mix online and bricks and mortar retail. The other big thing that we've noticed is that a lot of shoppers in real stores today are getting frustrated and bored with the checkout experience, and they want options. And so Just Walk Out provides that for them. Industry surveys have shown that there's up to $32 billion of lost sales and revenue just due to checkout line abandonment. We're seeing in the demographics that younger generations also prioritize technology inside the solution. 78% of millennials and Gen Z have found that a brand's commitment to using technology in both their products and how those products are sold gives them confidence in purchasing from them. As well as that, 67% of Gen Z thinks that automated checkout reduces their time, and it gives them time to enjoy other aspects of life. I'm going to talk a little bit now about Just Walk Out from a customer perspective. So as I've mentioned, convenience is critical here. Being able to have access to food, beverages, merchandise outside of core hours, that convenience, being able to get in and out quickly, being able to find what you need quickly. The speed of shopping is critically important. Every day today, we're often rushing from one appointment to the next, from one class to the next. So being able to get in and out quickly is critical. And of course, that means we want seamless checkouts. We don't want to be waiting in checkout for 15 minutes. And they are really the big value drivers that Just Walk Out solutions bring to the shopper. Beyond that, our retail partners, our business customers, they're able to trust in an AWS-backed Just Walk Out solution. We have very high security. All of our services, both cloud services and services that run on devices in the store, are at the highest level of Amazon security. They're also built on a scalable infrastructure. We designed our Just Walk Out system from the ground up to be able to migrate services from devices in store to the cloud. And so we can scale with the traffic in the store. There's essentially no technology limit to how many customers we can put into a store today. Usually most of the limits are around the fire code. And so that means that we can really scale to any size of store, as well as any number of stores on a campus or globally. And then the last thing is, of course, security for authorization. In today's world, there is a lot of credit card fraud that happens. And so we've offered highly secure credit card payment processing through our payment processing partners, as well as other forms of entry. What goes into a standard Just Walk Out store? Well, first up, the first thing you will see is an entry gate, and that's typically where you authenticate, either with a credit card, mobile wallet, or an application on your phone. As you enter the store, if you look up, you may see some cameras. Cameras are really the heart of our technology. We use cameras to basically determine who took what. So we can track people in stores. We don't look at biometrics of people with the cameras, but we do look at where they're authenticating, where they're walking around the store. We've coupled a custom camera with a highly scalable machine learning model that runs between edge compute devices and cloud devices. The nice thing with this model is that we can scale if we need more cloud compute. We can do processing in the cloud. If we can do it in the store, that lowers bandwidth for the store. So we have a very scalable model there. In some stores, we also use sensors to very accurately count tiny, small products. For example, we have palmable products. You may be able to grab them with one hand. The camera may have a tough time seeing that, and so we can augment that with a sensor where we need to. We developed our network for these stores from the ground up as well. We run our own highly secure backplane, control plane, and we also have the option for a redundant WAN connection uplink to the cloud in case we need it. And lastly, we have at the exit a gate to make sure that people are not able to enter the store without authenticating. All of these solutions give us a highly robust yet modular store format, and there's multiple types of stores that we will go into. Now today, we will be diving into the application of Just Walk Out technology at the UCSD. This is an example of what it looks like from the outside. And on the inside, the first thing you do see is the gates. In these stores, we offer several different methods of getting into the store: credit card, mobile wallet, as well as a partner app. You'll see a little bit more about that in the next video. So this is just a short snippet of what you might see at UCSD. And that's right, some sessions can actually happen in as short as about 20 seconds. It is definitely delivering convenience to our customers. At UCSD, we're really excited today to share the story that Heather and Jeff will be sharing with you. One of the big things with UCSD is that they have the top 3 performing stores by volume across our entire Just Walk Out fleet. And I'm super excited to welcome Heather up on stage. She will start her presentation. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Nathan. Okay, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I want to start by talking a little bit about UC San Diego. A lot of people yawn because we don't have football, but we are a research powerhouse, and we are in the top 7 public research institutions in the world, and research is our football. It's actually not a joke, but in our arena, instead of retired jerseys, we have our Nobel laureate winners listed on the wall. We are part of the UC system, the University of California system, which is actually 10 campuses. We only have 9 on here, but 10 campus system, 5 academic medical centers. We are a young university, so we were founded in 1960, which in university speak is like a baby, but we really are the little engine that could. And we have a very entrepreneurial and innovative spirit that's in the DNA of our institution. And that is why our experiences on campus and our infrastructure and our technology need to reflect the caliber of the research that we produce. So I want to talk a little bit about our size. So $7 billion enterprise, 45,000 students enrolled. We have almost an equal number of faculty and staff because of our research enterprise, and that's pretty unique. So just under 42,000 full part-time academic faculty and staff, and 22,000 students housed on campus. We are the second largest residential program in the country, soon to be first in the next couple of years, which I think is also another surprising fact for UC San Diego. And before we get to information on the dining plan, which is really where Just Walk Out comes into play for us, I want to talk a little bit about our growth because this is also unique. There's a lot of consolidation happening across American universities, and we continue to grow, and we continue to invest in housing with the hopes of guaranteeing 4-year housing guarantee at 20% below market, because we want students on campus. We want them to eat on campus. Our financial viability depends on keeping those dollars on campus. So we are growing in the next several years. We will have 30 to 35,000 beds on campus. And the reason we are able to do this is really because of our location. So we are located in beautiful La Jolla. If you haven't been, please come visit us. But I mention this because we're a destination campus. People want to work there, people want to study there, and we need the infrastructure to support all of our students. And with the numbers that I just showed you, that really demonstrates the need to feed all of those people on campus. Our housing design is specifically on the new builds and new construction that is going up. We have suite style housing that incorporates kitchens. And that's important, and Jeff will get into this more, but that drives the demand for our markets because students want the ability to cook at home, in their room. And so we need to provide them with essentially groceries and other goods to be able to do that. So with that, I'm going to ask Jeff to talk about our dining program.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Palmer. I serve as the Executive Director of Dining and Retail at UC San Diego. Pleasure to see you all today. Tell you a little bit about our dining program. It's very unique. As Heather talked about our program kind of being a baby or an infancy stage, that was an opportunity for us. And that opportunity really reflected in the way, how are we going to serve food in the future? Many of us who went to higher education universities probably had the all-you-care-to-eat model, the swipe model, which is where you go in, you swipe your card, you eat everything you want, and then you leave, right? We are not that model. We are a destination dining model, and in that, what that really refers to is you can go from one restaurant to the next, and you're gonna have different food everywhere you go. So if you go into one of the locations, they may have seven different concepts, and one of them may be a traditional taqueria, making birria from scratch, carne asada, 6 different salsas. We are San Diego, so definitely we have to focus on our local cuisine. But you may go over to our poke restaurant where we feature, amazing locally caught seafood, sustainably caught. So really the destination model means that as they go around throughout the campus, they're gonna experience different types of foods and cuisines throughout. So that's really important to us. In our program, we have a staggering number of students that we feed. Last year we served 9.5 million. We're on track to do over 10 million meals per year throughout the campus. Of that's about 30,000 to 35,000 meals per day. That's a lot of hungry college students, and as you know, college students like to eat food. They really like to get in there, but they consider themselves foodies. Our Gen Z and Gen Alpha, soon to be Gen Alpha students that join us, they're not looking for some of what was the traditional dining experience. They're looking for an experience that's different, that's unique. They're all over social media. They're looking at different recipes, especially through the pandemic. They got very involved in food and cooking. And so how do they do that and what does that look like for them is very different and unique. We have 18 locations throughout campus, like I said, ranging anywhere from 4 to 7 different concepts. We have full service sit down. And so, it's really a unique program in what we're trying to offer. We're trying to bring a different experience to our students and really help educate them on food as well as their future degree. I mentioned that we weren't an all-you-care-to-eat model, which is unique to us. We are what's called a declining balance model, meaning that our students start with a certain amount of dollars. We are 30% below market, which is intentional. Food affordability is something that we really focus on throughout the campus, making sure that we're getting the best use of the dollar for our students. We are a nonprofit organization. We operate as an auxiliary within the campus. So our goal is to get to a break even and support our students in making sure they have the most affordable meals possible. We are what you call a self-operated university, meaning that all of our employees throughout the dining program, our entire team, they work for UC San Diego. We are not contract or anything similar to that. Just two different models throughout the higher education dining practice. Heather touched a little bit on our new style and our growth and how the way that we're building housing really impacts the way that we're feeding students. And so as we've grown and our most recent builds, the last 2,000 beds about 4 years ago, and then the one 3 years ago and 2 years ago, we've added kitchens. And so kitchens are really important to our future model. And it's important because it costs more in tuition, books, and food than it does, in books and food than it does for tuition, right? And so we're trying to be very mindful of how students are spending their money. Our dining dollars in our program that our students select each year can be used anywhere. So it's not just in one of our residential dining locations, but they can also be used in our markets, our coffee shops throughout campus, which is important to offer variety. We don't want to be everything to all of them, but we want to be unique and different and offer variety, which is really our unique subset. So the ones that you really see on our campus are markets. Those of you who are from the East Coast, on the West Coast, when we see a market, that's a whole different term, right? A market for us really means a small grocery store. And so we've really embraced that term and are working to redefine that. Our coffee houses many times are within our markets. They are adjacent to the grocery store or the market. And then we have our residential dining. What's really unique about that is 50% of all the revenue that comes in goes to the residential dining program, and 50% also goes to the markets because they're not in separate pots. They're all in one pot. They can use them however they want. So if a student really wants to make food themselves, they can get a loaf of bread, they can get some turkey and cheese, and they can eat that all week and have lunch. Or if they want to come in and have a prepared meal in one of our residential dining locations, they can do that just as well. So it really offers variety and kind of different styles of service for our students. Diving into the markets, that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about autonomous markets for us, is our markets. So within our markets, that's where you see, probably more in the traditional sense, we would call it a C-store. Definitely has limited groceries. But as you go into a market, many of the markets have the outside part of the market where you've got all your frozen, your refrigerated, your produce, and then the center of the market has shelf-stable. We're very common to that theme. We do a lot of grab-and-go business, which is really important to us because those are value options for our students that they can grab something, take it back to their rooms. But really what we're seeing is students are able to get these items. We're teaching them how to cook oftentimes in our demo kitchen, helping them to kind of take that next step of life, going from 18 years old to 22, and really looking at it in a different way and learning how to cook and trying things. It doesn't just have to be macaroni and cheese. Believe it or not, our largest purchase is actually salmon and tuna on campus. I'm sure you're not surprised, being that we're California, but most campuses are chicken tenders and pizza. So there's a lot to offer when we're kind of looking at it from that perspective. Talk a little bit about what are these markets doing? These 3 markets, so we have 6 different markets on campus, but the 3 largest markets are the 3 that we brought Just Walk Out in to start. We brought them to start with that last fall, so they've been operating for over a year. Going into this year will be its 2nd year, and they have significantly high volume. 2 million transactions is very impactful for us, and $2 million in revenue just in these 3 markets, not counting the other markets that we're working on. So quite a lot of volume that are going through these, and you might be saying, well, why, right? And so really for us, there was a problem. I think that's where technology has to come in, is what was the problem? And for us, the problem that we were trying to solve for was queuing. There were other areas where we were trying to increase the flow through the restaurant. We were trying to enhance the experience because what was really happening for us is, imagine 40,000 plus students on the same day, all getting out of class right around the same time. You go from an empty market to, anywhere from 200 to 300 people getting through in the next 15 minutes. Didn't matter how many cashiers you threw at it. It didn't matter what you did. You had lines going through the aisles of these smaller footprints. And so it worked really well in these smaller square footage footprints for us. And the problem for us was, how do we solve for these challenges? How do we continue to grow? We're in a college system, so each college has about 2,000 students in it. And we keep adding 2,000 students each year until we get to our target of over 30,000 beds. And so how do we do that in the same square footage without adding more locations each time? Scaling was really important to us, and we really were looking to solve for these problems. As we launched the technology, we realized that there were other problems that we had that this helped us solve for as well. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But really, what it came down to was the solution, right? And the three biggest targets we had when we were initially starting, the solution that we were looking for were to increase peak throughput. We really needed to get more students through during those peak times, during those lunch and dinner hours. We have about 2 hours each day, lunch and dinner, or 4 hours total, that are really our highest volume. And so we worked to solve for that. That was number one. Number two, our students kept asking in focus groups for a lot of different things. The first of which was, how do we have longer hours? We were open from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m., which in industry was pretty late hours. Easy to understand that college students don't necessarily live from 7 to 10 p.m. And so, how do we extend hours? This allowed us to extend those hours for students, and we worked on it to a different degree. We also really wanted to find a solution for decreasing the queuing times. We didn't want 40, 50, 80 students all coming through at the same time waiting in line. It could take 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get everybody through during some of these peak hours. So that was really an important facet for us to solve for. Show you a little bit, you saw the short video, there's a little bit longer video of kind of what's going on here, and maybe I'll narrate a little. These are 3 different markets that we have. And you can see it's a really seamless experience for our students. They're coming in, the technology just works. And the name Just Walk Out really is perfect for it because that experience really is seamless in what they're doing. They come in, they grab what they want, and it is really just that easy. They walk out the first time kind of going, is this the experience? It was just way too easy. You can see it in the video there, kind of a little bit of how it transitions. I'm going to pass it over to Heather to tell you a little bit about why we chose Just Walk Out, and we'll kind of walk you through the process.
You can keep that. You can keep it. Okay, so just to back up a second, how did we get to Just Walk Out? Because there are other players in this market. So really at UC San Diego, if you could click forward for me, we probably, like many of your organizations, Amazon shows up in our campus in many different ways. And so there was a program run out of AWS called Amazon 360, where we had a single point of contact to corral our Amazon relationships, and that individual would bring opportunities to us, which works really well for us because I try to be the single point of contact for all things Amazon at our campus. And so he brought Just Walk Out to us really at the perfect time. Jeff and I had not, I don't think we had even really worked together prior to that kind of exchange. And that's really where the magic happened because it was perfect timing. Dining was already looking at some competitors. And so we were able to get Just Walk Out in front of Jeff and team to be able to evaluate. And I'll let Jeff talk about what happened when he got to go up to Seattle.
Yeah, so Heather brought us in saying, we'd love for you to check out this technology. This was something we were already working on separately, and we were brought together kind of down this path. And we had the opportunity to go to Seattle with the Just Walk Out team. In Seattle, we saw 3 really important locations for us. The first was Climate Pledge Arena. I got to be really honest with you, before we were doing this, I was very hesitant. I was very hesitant to see this as the full solution. It's a very complex operation. There's a lot of transactions going through it. There's a lot of sales. There's a lot of risk. And so we had these hesitations, but we really wanted to understand how it could work, what would work, and understand and envision that architecture for ourselves. So this trip to Seattle was really transformational for us in seeing the different operations, and it's also helped us to kind of grow into what we are today. During this trip, we got to go to Climate Pledge Arena, and we got to see the concessionaires during a sellout hockey game where they were moving beer and there were no lines. And somebody who came from the concession business previously in the restaurant business and has gone to a lot of concerts and maybe bought way too many beers, couldn't understand how they were getting beer through so quickly. So we watched it for quite a while. We also went over to some of the food vendors and watched the interaction of how all of these guests were coming in, grabbing food, and getting out without this queuing space. I had the opportunity to talk to some of the independent vendors that were there and hear a little bit about their story. And the one that really got me was I was talking to one of the vendors, and she was telling me that they did about 350 to 500 guests per hour on a regular game prior to the technology. And then after the implementation of the technology, they were doing over 1,500 guests during the same time period. And that blew me away. So I needed to see what was going on. We got to see it at peak, and we got to see it at its busiest, and you could really see the difference. Eliminating the queue allowed them to push the food out. Their challenge was, can they cook fast enough? Well, that's a good challenge. That's something that you really have to understand. We also had the opportunity to go and see the C-stores and look at their convenience store model and see it kind of in a smaller footprint and see how that worked, where you didn't have any interaction. Right? You walk in and there was no interaction, nobody cooking for you there, but it really was a C-store, which helped us to understand a little bit more of how we would do it. They were a little bit smaller than what we wanted, but it helped us to understand what it would look like when we were doing snacks and kind of retail. We also had the opportunity to look at the larger scale market that was out there and go through that and see everything from produce to meats and everything being done just like at one of your regular large-scale grocery stores. And so by bringing all of those together, we were really able to see how we could apply this into our setting. And not only just in our setting, but how can we apply this into our future state. Before we get into future state, I want to tell you a little bit about our current state. Our current state right now, as I told you, we have 6 markets. 3 of them are the automated markets. All of them accept all major credit cards, EBT or CalFresh or food stamps, as you may know it, which was very important to our students. That was really important that we had that integration because students are fighting food affordability these days, especially in California, and trying to make sure that we had all of the resources to support our students. The other part that we really needed was the declining balance model, being able to use stored value program and credit cards all at the same time. So all these need to happen at the same time. We were probably ready to launch 6 months before, but we had to wait for the technology to get integrated so that we could launch with all of these, right? This is what our students said. They didn't just want credit cards, they didn't just want declining balance, they wanted it all. And that's where the Just Walk Out team really stepped up to get in there and to work on the integrations with us. It offered a lot of real-time analytics, and that's really helped us throughout the process. The real-time analytics helped us to understand what's moving, what's not moving. Can we replace this in different spots? Where should some of these products live? Which has really helped increase revenues. The integration was really important. I'm going to go back to that for just a second because the integration with Transact is our point of sale or the company that does our back-end system. And so we couldn't have done it without them. We did not want to have a Just Walk Out program and then our other programs living separately. They needed to work together. We currently are doing online ordering with Transact. And when I tell you we're doing online ordering, I think everybody tells you they're doing online ordering. But really, we are doing online ordering to a really significant degree. We are 90% online ordering. During the pandemic, we went from 5% to 99% online ordering. And our students said, this is the model. This is the model we like. This is what we want. And so with the Transact integration, what that did is it took a singular experience to our students. They didn't want different apps for different things, different access. And so what you're seeing kind of scrolling through the phone here is a student's experience. These are all of the different restaurants, all the nutritionals that students have access to on campus, and they can access and order their food from anywhere, sometimes class, sometimes their dorm room, sometimes they're in one of the dining locations, but there's no more queuing. We had all of this space that was being utilized for lines and moving all these students in and out and through, and those are gone. We've been able to rethink how we lay out our dining locations. We've been able to utilize more square footage in a more meaningful way. And what you can see from this here, it'll scroll back up to the top in a minute, is this is the Transact app you're looking at on the phone. Somebody just clicks on Just Walk Out here, and immediately they're taken to where they can select a location. It gives them a QR code, and that QR code, as I go back here just a second, that QR code is what they're scanning right here. So we're not using biometrics, we're using a QR code. We are using credit cards, so we have different methods in which we're doing it, but this really worked for us. Our students wanted to be able to use their phones, they wanted to be able to use their IDs, things that we already had in place, and so we were able to do that with the singular one-card system that we have. The next proposition was really, what does value mean to us? How do we get this program off, and how do we find value in such a substantial program and make it work for us in a meaningful way so that the numbers work, right? And so that it makes sense to us and we can justify it and we can understand what that looks like. So I've got a little bit of data here for you just to share. These were really the 6 pillars of things that we were looking at. The biggest one that I talked about first is store throughput. We really needed to get more people through the restaurant, more transactions through the markets, and we did that. We did that to a degree that we weren't expecting. We were probably going to be happy if we got close to 10%. We far exceeded that. What we noticed is those students that used to walk past all of our markets and see the lines and walk away, they were coming in now because there's no more lines. They were also coming in more frequently. We thought, if a student came into the markets once or twice a day, now we're seeing them 3 and 4 times a day because it's much easier. They can come in and grab a drink, they can come in and grab a granola bar, they can come in and grab a banana, or they could grab all their groceries for the week. But what we found is they were just kind of grabbing what they needed. They don't have a lot of refrigeration space, and so this allowed them to kind of think in the moment and not have to worry about planning ahead. They really are putting being a student first, and it allowed them to do that. We doubled our grab-and-go business, which was, for us, very important because our grab-and-go grew from almost 3 million to 7 million during this time. And this business for us is important because we insource this program, which provides well-paying jobs to our students. We have over 1,000 student employees in our dining program, which is really important because it helps to make college more affordable. And our grab-and-go program really helped us to do that. We also saw an increase in total guests served by 11%. So that was really significant, I think, in the food and beverage industry. If you get 5%, that's growth. If you hit 10%, that's phenomenal. And anything over that, when you get double digits, year over year, same-store sales, that's really where you're seeing great numbers. And we saw the number of guests increase to 11%. That really had a lot of impact to us. The second pillar, enhancing the shopping experience, was something we really needed to do because imagine trying to go and grab a bottle of water and having to navigate through lines of students, especially between class periods. That's pretty much gone, if not completely gone at this point. So when you walk into a market, it's a lot more calm, a lot more organized. You really get a chance to see what you want. You get a chance to shop. You get a chance to look. You're not having to walk through people and reach around them, but you're able to kind of look at labels and pick things up. If you find something later, maybe I grabbed a box of cookies over here and I decide to get over here and I'm like, no, I don't want the cookies. I leave that there and I grab a bag of chips instead or some fruit, maybe a better choice. But these are options that the students can do and the technology supports that very easily. Really, one of the things that was most impactful for us is, we implemented some different technologies recently. We're kind of on the forefront with STEM being so important on our campus. And we're in our mind as we're going live and transitioning, the first thought is there's going to be issues, and we prepared for that. We had contingencies, we had plans, we had plan A, B, C, D, right? Right after the pandemic, I think we all had plans for everything, all the way up to Z. But we really didn't have any challenges for Go Live. Go Live was seamless. We had the support we needed going into it. When the Just Walk Out team came in, they were able to do the integration in a very short period of time. It was 6 weeks for them to get us to go live. And we also had the support during Go Live. So, they were there. They were at each one of our markets. And the reason we did 3 at a time was really just to scale. And we had somebody at each market to support us, and there were no issues. We kept waiting for one. I mean, maybe that's me as the customer going, okay, something's going to happen. But it didn't. We had a really great transition when we went live. The next pillar that we were looking at was, how do we improve labor efficiency, right? We had to pay for this model. We had to justify it. We had to make sure our ROI was there. And it was. We were targeting between 30 and 40% labor savings. So for some of you, you may look at it as, how are we going to save labor? For us, it was how are we going to reallocate labor? Heather kind of painted a picture of our growth. We needed to grow, and we're growing at a very fast pace on campus. And so for us, it was, how do we reduce the amount of labor so that we can reallocate it throughout campus to some of these other concepts that we're growing and building? And so for us, that labor savings was there. In the first year, we realized 30% labor savings, and we are working on some strategies to try to get to 40% this year that hopefully will improve that. So we're balancing that between labor savings and increased revenue, and that's really where we're trying to target it. And so right now, there's a couple pillars that we're trying to balance. What we heard loud and clear from the students is we want more hours, we want more availability. Believe it or not, one of the busiest times on campus for internet is between midnight and 2 a.m. That may not surprise you, but it totally surprised me. And they're gaming and they're doing all kinds of stuff. We use the most bandwidth between midnight and 2 a.m. And students wanted to grab something. They wanted to grab a snack. They wanted to be able to grab food. And we just didn't have the staff to do a lot more late night options. And so in our first year in 2023, we went from 10 p.m. to midnight at all 3 of our markets very seamlessly. Our busiest hour was 11 to 12. And students really started coming in right before closing. So we were able to meet their needs and their demand of extending hours. And this year we are testing out the 24-hour option in our largest store. At this market, we wanted to have something to try it and test it. First we thought, well, we're not going to be able to have labor to do this. We found out that wasn't the reality. What happened is some of our staff have second jobs, which I'm sure many of you do as well. And so the second jobs, we staff that late night shift very easily. We're not seeing a lot of volume after about 3 a.m. It kind of tapers off between 2 and 3, which allows us to do late night and dark drops and bring all the products in between 3 and 6, maybe 7 a.m. before we get busy again. Because by 7 a.m., we've got students coming in for coffee, breakfast, different items like that. So this 24-hour model is working really well for us. We're testing it out in one. If it works, we're going to scale it into some of the others. But we really wanted to understand the challenges first and make sure that the data was there to support that growth. You're probably wondering what the growth performance was. For us, it's 9%. That is phenomenal for us. We were hoping to achieve somewhere between 5 and 7%. That was our kind of lofty target. And you may be saying, well, why 18% on number of transactions and 9% on sales? That'd be a great question if you notice that difference. And really that difference is you can see the students coming in on a more frequent basis. It's almost like their refrigerator on our campus. When they want something, they just come and grab it. Between classes, heading here, heading there. So that was really important for us. The next thing I want to talk about was really an unintended success. This was something that we had a problem with on campus. You may not believe it, but students who get into some of these amazing schools, there is a problem with theft, a significant one, especially in Gen Z, and probably will definitely follow through in Gen Alpha. And so we were sitting right around a 3% shrinkage, theft and loss, prior to the technology. And so, we were dealing with it in many different ways, but really it came back down to this technology supported that. And so to be able to reduce it, what you see to just under 0.5% here, 2.5% was a fantastic number for us. And I tried. When I went to Seattle with the Just Walk Out team, I really tried. I went over and was leaning over the shelf and putting Tic Tacs in my pocket. I even tried it when we brought it to campus. I brought my backpack with me. I brought clipboards. I put things over it, shoved them in my pocket, put them out in different spots. I was trying to break the system. I really put it to the test. And our students probably put it to the test 10 times more than we do. So this was a significant impact that really supported our campus. And again, when students are stealing, they're stealing from each other. And so that was really important for us to understand that, because what happens when prices go up 2.5%, or that difference, that's all the students paying for. It wasn't coming out of our pocket. It wasn't on the profit line. It really came out of each other, the rest of the students' pockets. So this helped to keep prices more affordable for us. I'm going to pass it back to Heather, and we'll go over some of the lessons that we learned during the process.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. So Jeff just walked us through all of the great benefits that we've realized and will continue to realize. And I just want to mention some of the lessons learned. So we didn't expect, as Jeff talked about, we didn't expect the kind of growth that we experienced. And so our forecasting was off a little bit as we were working into this particular model, being able to support the type of volume that the markets were now carrying. So that was definitely something that we learned, and we've improved our ability to forecast more accurately for these stores. The 3 stores that we have right now, they were all remodels. And so we had to essentially retrofit spaces And you can imagine, again, a university, different types of funky spaces that we're working in. We had to retrofit those spaces in order to optimize the technology. So lessons learned there for sure. We have our fourth market is going to be a remodel, and then we have two new, brand new builds, and it's a lot easier. We are now incorporating Just Walk Out technology specs and requirements into our new builds so that there will be a sort of seamless implementation there. In a very good way, we had to retrain staff and develop new greeter positions. So as Jeff mentioned, transition of 30% of labor from the traditional sort of cashier role. So those individuals are now repositioned either at new locations, or they're working with inventory and stocking, things like that. So some training required there. And the greeter position is really just what it sounds like, kind of like the Walmart greeter, but somebody standing at the gates for, Jeff and I laugh because our students refer to us as people born in the late 1900s. So for people like me that the first time maybe need a second to get acquainted with the technology, that person's key in ensuring that that everybody is successful. And really all it takes is one time and everybody's good to go. For us, we obviously have a new influx of people every couple of months and definitely every year. And so the greeter position is essential. One of the issues that we have with the technology is the idea of tailgating. So somebody kind of intentionally kind of walking right behind somebody else and kind of attaching themselves to that person's payment method. And so the greeter helps prevent that from happening. And then the last kind of area of improvement was really reimagining our retail placement and planograms. So because of the analytics that we can get out of Just Walk Out, we have been able to carry merchandise that is more consistent with what our students want to buy. And also we increased our shelf space because with the technology, we learned that we could build up. And so we're able to carry more product to support our growing population. We are not done. The market is not the only application that we are going to do. So some of the additional concepts that we are fleshing out now and will over the next couple of years. So as we mentioned, 2 new automated markets are under construction. One more will come the following year. Those markets will open in 2025. And then sort of the next phase is to integrate our cafes and made-to-order food. Jeff is working on a fully automated coffee concept. And one of the most important things to note about these kind of applications is you don't have to compromise unique experiences or quality. These are coffee concepts where the beans are roasted fresh right there or ground fresh right there. So it's still a very quality experience, even though it's automated. And we're going to introduce some scratch food, like take and bake pizza type of things, just a lot of different options for our students, faculty and staff, which is great. We're also looking at our concessions, which we've talked about, obviously a really sort of a natural association there. Our bookstore, utilizing the RFID technology for things like apparel and different types of merchandise. We are opening a hotel, or building a hotel on campus, and I think that there's a lot of really great application in that space, whether it's for a gift shop or for a 24-hour market. Our medical center is going live with 2 concepts. So in my opinion, really, there's endless opportunity, and Amazon Just Walk Out has really supported us as we've gone through this pilot and helped us develop a model that really works and has absolutely transformed retail on our campus. Most importantly, and this is kind of our last point here, but most importantly, it has allowed us to, or it can allow us to address food deserts on campus. So parts of campus where it's not really feasible to have a dining option per se, we can go with a kind of modular store kit option to make sure people can at least grab something to eat. So that's what we're looking towards in the future, which we're really excited about. And I'd like to call Nathan back up to close us out.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Jeff. It's been great to hear about the success story at UCSD. The location shot of San Diego just makes me want to wish they can build that hotel quickly so I can enjoy some of the salmon on campus. I do want to talk a little bit about where we go beyond education. Before I do that, I do think there was one key aspect at UCSD. It's the integration beyond just walkout in other areas, especially that integration with Transact that lets you shop seamlessly, not with just walkout, but also the other stores on campus. And this is an area that our services are extendable to be able to integrate. So it is another key value feature. Education is one of our core markets. We're in dozens of universities already. Beyond that, we've also one of the major players in sports stadiums. We have installations in hospitality, and we have installations in travel. In particular, Lumen Field in Seattle, the home of the Seahawks and the Sounders, they have 15 stores at the moment built on Just Walkout technology, both for food and beverages and for retail apparel with our RFID store. In the food and beverages, they've seen over 30% improvement in customer throughput. And if you go to Lumen Field and see halftime at a Seahawks game, our Just Walkout stores generally don't have a queue coming in. The number of people coming out is often twice as fast as the stores that do have very long queues. So those stores have really been able to get people through. We're seeing over 30% increase in transactions per game as a result, and the sales are almost 50% higher year-over-year sales on similar days from the year before. Importantly, they're seeing 40 to 60% improvement in each store's and labor efficiencies. Some stores that used to operate with 5 associates can now operate with 2 associates. What that means is they can use those associates in other areas. Now there's more retail outlets than ever before at Lumen, and so this is a key part of their success as well. Just to look at our value drivers for Just Walkout and recap, top line revenue is important, but also is customer experience. So by both enhancing the customer experience, our retail partners can get more people through the store. The expanded hours of store operation, as we've heard, is key. A lot of students, yes, they definitely are night owls, a lot of them, the gamers, and they're able to get into the store in the wee hours of the morning. That enhanced shopper experience, good visibility into the store, seeing what's available, seeing what's for sale, how they can get in and out easy. Reducing theft and loss is also an area that our gates, both at entry and exit, are able to prevent. We have seen that in a lot of our establishments, shrink rates on the order of 4 to 5% have now gone down to, in some cases, less than 1%, which is quite exceptional in this industry. And we've talked about improving labor efficiency as well. All of these items come together to improve stores' performance in terms of the bottom line, making our retail partners more successful. With that, I'd like to wrap up. I'd like to welcome everyone. If you want to see Just Walkout in action here at re:Invent, we have our new Just Walkout RFID store at the AWS merchandise store. So it's in the lobby of the Venetian Expo. So if you do have a chance, please come and visit us. You can see that in action. And once again, I would really like to thank Heather and Jeff today for sharing their story. And thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a great rest of show. Thank you.